morning, everybody, and welcome to Freedom Talk. I'm so excited to be here with Melissa Ramos of Sexy Food Therapy. Hello, gorgeous.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, fantastic. So Melissa's a nutritionist, acupuncturist. You got sass on you, girl. I love everything about you, your energy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, we're so excited to have you. Now, before we get into anything, let's hear more about you. What are you all about? What's your business all about? What are you working on right now? Talk to us, girl.
Okay, so my business is Sexy Food Therapy, and the whole sort of premise behind it is to feel sexy from the inside out with not just nutrition, but also with Chinese medicine. And the biggest part about it is that I think before I got into this industry, I felt that a lot of what I was seeing felt really unattainable, and it felt a little intimidating.
Yeah.
People would talk about various foods or they talk about various approaches, and coming from someone like myself who used to be in advertising, it was, I knew nothing. Well, I didn't have much education about, nutrition or anything really based other than what my mother had taught me growing up. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, we need something a little bit more attainable that the average person can kind of come to and have fun and laugh and learn at the same time versus sort of this cookie cutter approach that I felt was like, all about these superfoods that cost like $20 for a bag that, you can buy an apple for, an organic apple for just over $1. And that's still considered a superfood. And I think there's a lot of, given that I've come from the marketing perspective, I see just a lot of marketing jargon that's out there that tries to sell people on, that you have to be wealthy to be able to afford to be healthy. And I don't necessarily believe that. So I basically help people with hormonal imbalances, with gynecological issues like endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, ovarian cysts, and also a huge emotional components as well. So dealing a lot with stress and so forth, because I highly, highly, highly believe that it's a lot about mindset. I think that, we're always taught to eat well, and we're taught to now, supplements are good to help to complement what you're doing. But if the lifestyle portion of it is not there, then I always say, I'm like, you're just going to be drinking a lot of green smoothies and just having a lot of shit on your face because you're still miserable. It's just about what's your lifestyle like? And I find that the second that you're able to sort of turn that aspect around, that really that's where that magic begins to happen.
Yes, I love that. And you know what? It is truly intimidating out there. And right now, the health and wellness industry is absolutely booming. Everyone is talking about green smoothies and superfoods, and this is what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm part of that roller coaster because it gets confusing. And I relate to you because you do come from the corporate background as well. And how was that transition for you from corporate and educating yourself and becoming this super nutritionist? Now that's totally relatable. How was initially that shift for you? Like, where did you make that decision that this is what you want to be doing? This is your soul's place. How was that for you?
It happened when I was I actually wanted to be in advertising since I was 12. Like, I actually knew at 12 years old that I wanted to be in advertising. I actually visited the ad agency I ended up working at in my early 20s when I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually had the business card from the woman that I spoke to when I was 12. So it's crazy because I wanted to be in this industry so bad. And then when I got into it, I didn't really realize how much smoke and mirrors there is. That, when you're working on set, I had produced over 40 commercials in the time that I was in business. And that's huge.
Huge.
And so when I was in it, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the sense that, you're on set and it's cold sometimes and it's overnight sometimes, or it's long hours and, it can be really boring, or you're working on a presentation for Lord knows how long. And really it becomes kind of a thankless job in so many ways because you're putting in so much effort. And I just felt like it was just sucking my soul in so many ways that I ended up getting quite sick. So I was one of those people who was working out really hard and I was still gaining weight rapidly. My skin was covered in acne. I had horrible digestive issues. I had no way of understanding what exactly was happening. And it's, that sort of token cliche story, hey, got sick. And then after I decided to make that switch. And even though it was cliche, what I did which was really took a lot of, I guess, courage to some degree, because I studied nutrition, and I did so because obviously I got sick and I had a vested interest in it, but I was still in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I was done nutrition, I took a year off because I wanted to figure out what else I wanted to do, because I didn't want to stop there. I just didn't know what I wanted to do afterwards. When I went to school for Chinese medicine, like total glutton for scholarly punishment. Um, but when I went back to school for Chinese medicine, I was, in a relationship. I had a home. I sold pretty much everything I had just to be able to afford to go back to school and afford to move back to the city. So all these switches happened, and I don't think it necessarily was because I got sick. I think that a huge part of it was just trying to find my true purpose. And I was in a relationship for 5 years. He's the best ex-fiance a woman can have. I don't have any complaints. But I just wanted to be able to live the life that I felt that I inherently was supposed to, even though I didn't exactly know what it was.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to take a step in the right direction and literally go for broke, which is what happened. Because I was broke overnight, sold off everything I had just to afford to start from scratch.
Wow.
But yeah, that was kind of the switch. So it was kind of those two things, getting sick and then trying to find my soul's purpose.
Wow. And so talk to us more about that, because for us, we're promoting freedom. Freedom to do what you love and live with purpose every single day. Now, a lot of our viewers are just starting out, so they might be those women or men in the position that we were at, where corporate, but seeking something else, or they might be already in entrepreneurship and kind of experiencing that emotional roller coaster where,
Yeah.
What's next? How do I grow bigger? And that all has so much stress on our body. So go that way. Talk to us a little bit about, adrenal fatigue, how as women who want to be powerhouses, how we should take care of ourselves, or, your opinions on that, because it's a constant struggle. It's something that women especially deal with every single day.
Yeah, I think that if you are in the position, if you want to do something differently, if you want to break out of corporate and start your own thing, or if you're already in your own thing and you're struggling, because it is an emotional roller coaster. Especially if you're doing it on your own. I did it on my own for years. And I remember when I moved into this apartment, all I had were these bookshelves in this room. And all I had was this for like a year, and then like a kitchen table and a bed. And other than that, I had no furniture. So it was really hard. I was bartending and I was waitressing for Lord knows how long. And, I remember clearing off like sticky beer rings from tables, thinking to myself, please let me just do what I want to do for the rest of my life. Please, 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 dear God, let me just get out of this. I don't want to serve another karaoke hockey night in Canada. Please, dear God. And it was really challenging, especially when you see other people in the industry who either have support from a spouse, or if they have support from old money or anything like that, then you really got to hustle. So it can definitely be an emotional roller coaster. And the thing I always ask people is, if you're in it and you're struggling, I always try to tell people is look for mentors in out there. And it doesn't have to even be within your industry. If you are struggling at the marketing aspect, which is a huge part of any entrepreneur's, world, or it should be, then seek out entrepreneurs. Don't seek out nutritionists if you're a nutritionist. Seek out online entrepreneurs if that's your jam. Right. If you are somebody who's in corporate and then you want to leave to do something on your own, then I probably would tell them it is possible, but just understand that you're going in with realistic expectations. So have a plan, have an exit plan. Because if you're doing it and you're going to be doing it on your own, there are going to be some times that are going to be that can be really challenging. So have that exit plan. You can transition to make the time easier. You can save up some money so you have some backing, because you probably will need that to invest. A business is like a child. It requires for you to invest and for you to nourish it and so forth. So, the more that you bond with other people in the industry and look outside your city, we always tend to, I know a lot of nutritionists specifically will look kind of in Toronto, they'll be like, oh, there's this nutritionist, and then there's this nutritionist, and there's this, and I'm just like, Fuck, that's only Toronto. Like, look at there's Toronto is not the world. Like, we've got,
Yeah.
you know, the States, we've got great people coming out of Australia. Like, look
Yeah.
bigger, because the second that you start to compare yourself to these people in your city, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
And
there's so much bigger
stressful.
things happening and stressful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, exit plan, turn to people, because you can turn to family, but a lot of the time, sometimes, as much as they love you, they might be like, I don't really understand
I
what it
don't
is you're
get
doing.
it.
Are you sure you
Yeah.
want to do this? Like, and they say it out of love, but sometimes they just don't get it.
Totally. The mentorship is so important. Oh, I love that. And
Yeah.
what about foods when we look at that? Because that's also, when we're looking into transitioning, or we're there and we hit the winter blues or whatnot, shit hits the fan. It's not always blue skies and butterflies. That's what I always say. What should we do in terms of nutrition at that point? Because then we have, the stress of nutrition and choices and constant option, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely keep it fucking simple. Please. Like, you don't, like, I said this to you, like earlier, but like, you don't have to be healthy. You don't have to spend $20 on a bag of like berries from like faraway places.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you can if you want to, and they're full of nutrients, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, if you are somebody who is super stressed out, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Like, just go back to the basics and know that food doesn't have to be complicated, and it's there as support for you. So a lot of the times when I get stressed, I actually will cook, because I find that it's very therapeutic for me. It allows me to take a step away from what I'm doing. I'll play some music. If you really want, pour yourself a glass of wine. Just make sure you don't have 4.
Yeah.
And throughout the day, I always say, like, drink lots of water. It's such a basic thing, but if you're not drinking enough water, then you're going to feel more stressed, because those cortisol levels are going to shoot up. And I think the other thing is that fermented foods, probiotics, because the less good friendly bacteria you have in your gut, the higher your stress hormones are going to be. So, really keep it simple. And I know a lot of people crave carbs when they're super stressed out. And I get it, but there are so many different options now, with, grain-free breads that you can make on your own, muffins, those types of things, and really kind of look at your food as support rather than something as of like, oh God, I'm so stressed, like, fuck it, I'm just going to have this, and then feel like crap afterwards.
Yeah.
And if you are going to go and eat a burger, for example, then eat a burger and get on with it.
Right.
Just don't leave it as though this is my cheat day.
Right.
Because once you do that, then you're going to set yourself up for like massive gluttony, which is, I think, what a lot of people do.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, guys, and for the viewers, we've kind of transitioned into freedom plus stress, and the reality is of the entrepreneur that it isn't all perfect. And the more we talk about these things, the more you guys understand that we're in the same boat, whether we're just starting out or we're in the process or we've made it. It's a constant journey. And so I guess that's one of the big reasons, and I'm happy we're talking about it, because a lot of people don't talk about it and they feel that they're alone, and it's not the case.
I still feel like I'm alone sometimes, to be honest with you. I work 90% of my business is online, which is soon going to be 100. And yeah, it can be very isolating, but I really encourage people to seek out other entrepreneurs. Stop approaching entrepreneurs for starters. Don't approach an entrepreneur and go, hey, I was wondering if I could pick your brain. Don't say that to somebody, because it's really frustrating, because if you're going to pick my brain, that's time out of my schedule to do that.
Right.
And there's a ton of things that are on the go, but build relationships is totally different, because then you're actually acting like you give a shit rather than expecting that person to give you something and they don't even know you.
Right. I love that. So when seeking mentorship, what an awesome tip. Build that relationship, connect, and then it just won't be one conversation. It'll be numerous conversations and an opportunity for a great friendship too. So I love
Absolutely.
that. I love that. And so freedom, again, we're all about inspiring freedom lifestyles. What does freedom mean to you on your journey?
Freedom would, I think, mean that I can be able to live on my own terms. I think that I had this different sort of outlook of freedom initially when I went into things, and I thought, I've always just wanted a very successful online business. I didn't, the media stuff is great and I do well with the media stuff, but media is so, it can be cutthroat, and it's, a lot of people are telling you a lot of different things in terms of how they think you should run certain things, rather than, I love the online portion because I can sort of create whatever I want to. Yeah. And I think that that's great because online really does provide you with the opportunity to be who you are and brand who you are rather than someone telling you otherwise. So that's a huge part of freedom. But really, I think a big part of it has to do with authenticity, because walking into the industry, especially when I was surrounded by people who are either like super hippies or like, die-hard nutritionists or die-hard acupuncturists, I came in and I'm loud and I'm intense and I swear and I just have a big personality, and it always felt like I didn't really fit in, and I didn't know how I was going to fit into this industry. And I just was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going to be me. And if people don't like it, then I'll find out. Right. But I can't be anyone else, and I'm certainly not going to fit into a mold that people are trying to put me into. So I think freedom really has to do a lot about authenticity at the end of the day. It is a way of life for sure, but so is authenticity. If you live authentic in everything you do, then that's going to make a really big impact on how you carry out your messaging from that.
I love that. And I think that's a huge message for all the entrepreneurs watching this, because that's how you've been able to achieve all of your successes, is because it's you. It's you, and the people that are meant to relate with you, they do. And I was going through your website this morning. I'm like, I love this girl. Like, I just can't wait to go and hang out with her.
Because anytime, I'm totally up for you. Ever want to go for tea or smoothies? I'm down. I'm down. Even a glass of wine, I'm totally down.
Amazing. And it's because you're real. And you know what? And exactly, the people who aren't meant to work with you, they won't. But you know what? That's not your thing to deal with, right?
Yeah, it's not my jam. I think that everybody out there, if you're looking for a practitioner, you're going to seek out somebody who you relate to or who you trust or who you really vibe with. And there are different people who will go to various people and different people who will come to me, and I do quite well in that department. And I don't know, I'm just completely unapologetic with it. Like, it is what it is. I mean, I remember probably about almost 3 years ago, I almost got signed for a primetime show in the US. And right before we got signed, like, I was speaking to lawyers about the visas, like, it was so close. And the owner of the company came in and did a bunch of budget cuts across the board. So the TV show got pulled, which is super common. It happens more often than not. Right. And I remember that time, and, we pitched and pitched and pitched to all these different news station networks. And after a while, I was just exhausted, because it's, just because a producer is interested to produce a show out of you means nothing. It's if the network actually wants you. And when this all happened, I thought, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to make my own platform. And investing in my camera at that time, which had video capabilities, was the best thing I ever did. I mean, mind you, my first videos were absolutely atrocious. Like, thank God there's a delete button on YouTube, because it was so bad. So I think that if anybody wants to get into video and really create their own platform, don't get intimidated when you suck initially.
Right.
Because everyone sucks initially. Like, it was, my first tape was like, hi, my name is Melissa Ramos, and welcome to my kitchen. Like, I had this really brutal, like, stoic Vanna White thing going on. And I love it. It just takes time. It takes time, and you get better, and you get better at presenting in public, and you become more confident. And yeah, you become more unapologetic and more authentic the more that you do it.
That's so amazing. And I want you guys to re-listen to that over and over if you have to, because it has to be one of the best points you've made, because it's about growing into your power too. And it takes time. Yeah. You're not going to be perfect at the beginning. And thank you so much for that. And if we want to...
It's totally there.
Awesome.
It's totally there. The creativity is there. It's absolutely there. It's just... creativity is a muscle that needs to be exercised.
Yes.
It's whether you want to, if you're not into video and you just want to stick to writing, but you're like, oh, my writing sucks. When I first started writing blogs, it took me literally the entire morning, if not almost the majority of the day, to do it. Right. Because I just wasn't very good at it. My sentences ran on. It was brutal. My blog posts were like monsters. And the more that you do it, the better that you get at it. It's just a muscle that needs to be exercised. You just can't get discouraged.
Beautiful. And what are you working on now? Any exciting projects that we need to know about?
Yeah, so right now, it's interesting because back in November, I do this sort of yearly check-in with my people, and I sent them all a message saying, "What are you guys struggling with right now?"
Yeah.
And I got I got over 1,000 responses. Okay, I literally sat down for a month, and every morning I would dedicate a specific time to go through these responses, and I, got some ideas and clarity for 2015. But all these little issues started coming up in terms of like, you know, depression and anxiety was one of them.
Yeah.
Hair health was one of them. Chronic fatigue was one of them, and so forth. And I thought, I'm going to create a mini series that's going to run throughout the year with these different topics. So the first topic is going to be happening at the end of this month, on February 24th. And it's going to all be about depression and anxiety. And these mini series are sort of meant to be at a lower price point. So people who might have wanted to take my other programs for some reason and couldn't afford to, this is a really great option. And throughout the year, there's going to be different topics that are going to pop up. It might not be exactly monthly, but almost monthly that's going to happen. So that's a really big one. And so I'm really excited about that because I think a lot of people just think that there's a disconnect, but I think a lot of people don't realize that it's beyond food and nutrition. And I really combine the Chinese medical aspect into it as well. It's going to be quite powerful. And we've got like almost 2,000 people who are interested in the program so far. So the webinar is happening right before we launch. So on the 24th of February at 7 p.m., webinar is happening. And, that's going to be sort of the thing for all the series. So if you can't get to that one, that's cool. There'll be other series that are going to be coming up. And, there's just the opportunity to learn so much.
Amazing. And where can we find that?
You can actually find that on, I don't know if you're going to be giving anybody show notes right now, but sexyfoodtherapy.com.
Yep.
And if you go to sexyfoodtherapy.com, if you're on my site within like 10 seconds, a pop-up will come up. That's probably the best way for me to describe it versus giving you the whole link.
Awesome.
But a pop-up will come up and it'll actually ask you if you are interested in the webinar that's coming up on the 24th. So that's a really great way to be able to opt into it.
That's amazing. And it's so exciting. Yeah. You're listening to your viewers, you're listening to your audience. And I know that sometimes we feel like we're alone on these issues, but there's a big community that can all relate to one another. So amazing. And then we can also find you on Facebook. We can find you on Instagram. And we look forward to hearing more from you. Thank you so much, Melissa. And
my pleasure.
You're just
Thank
a
you.
blessing. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.